Hello, I'm Ken Arscott, your narrator. This training video is about how to resolve conflicts between two or more people. As you probably know, resolving conflicts can be difficult, especially for security officers. Conflicts arise when two or more people disagree over their values, their perception, their ideas, or their desires. During a conflict, each person's view regarding what happened will vary. Some conflicts may seem trivial to you, but to the people involved, it's serious. Remember, a conflict requires two or more people, and you will need cooperation of all of them in order to resolve it. In order to resolve conflict, you need to know the full story. That means you need to know who's involved, what happened, when did it happen, where did it happen, and why did it happen. A conflict could just be a minor dispute up to a heated argument. As a security officer, your objective is to end conflicts peacefully without alienating the participants. Preventing a dispute or an argument from escalating into a physical confrontation is the goal of this training video. Resolving a conflict is a verbal process. Only as a last resort should you consider using physical force, and then only if the conflict becomes violent. As a security officer, sooner or later, you'll have to deal with a conflict situation. In this video, you'll learn a few tactics and techniques that'll help avoid alienating people. One of the first important techniques is to try and make a good first impression. That's easily accomplished by being polite and showing people involved that you're concerned. Never talk down to people involved in a conflict situation. For example,
"What the hell's going on?"
Saying something like that would make them feel right away that you disrespect them. It would be better to say something like,
"Let's all calm down."
Saying that will make them feel respected and more than likely pause the argument. Choose your words carefully and don't make any negative facial expressions or negative body language. It's not a good idea to use slang or police jargon when talking to people while in a conflict. This could lead to miscommunication. This is especially true when dealing with people of different cultures. Let me give you an example. Someone reports to you that a man is breaking into a car in the parking lot. You respond by saying, "Shut up." Are you telling them to shut up and stop talking, or are you just using jargon saying that you're surprised? It was not only the jargon that you said, but the vocal expression that could confuse them. Now, had you said, "I'm surprised that's happening," "I didn't know that," or "Really?" it would have been a lot clearer to the witness. So be careful when you use jargons. When the conflict involves a criminal or safety issue, you may have to take immediate steps. If it's not an emergency, it's better to talk to the individuals and try and sort out their differences. I'm going to show you a short video that takes place in a shopping center parking lot. Two men are in cars facing each other, about 40 yards apart, stopped, waiting for a car to pull out of a parking spot. One car is driven by Joe, who has his directional signal on, indicating that he wants that spot. The other car is driven by Harry, waiting for the same parking spot and doesn't have his directional signal on. When the man pulls out, Harry quickly drives into the parking space. In the first part of this scenario, a security officer tries to resolve the conflict and loses control. In the second scenario, another security officer handles it correctly.
Hey man, you got me blocked in. How about moving stuff?
No way, you son of a bitch.
I had my directional signal on, waiting for that spot, and you stole it. On top of that, you gave me the finger.
Are you nuts? I've never seen you before.
How could you miss me? I stopped right over there in plain view trying to get that spot, and you stole it from me, and on top of that, you gave me the finger.
Courtesy my ass. Just move your damn car.
No way. You started this, I'm going to finish it.
Move your car, jerk.
That's not happening.
What the hell's going on here?
Look, officer, I was waiting for this guy to pull out of a spot. And then when he pulls out, this jerk steals it from me. Then he laughs at me and gives me the finger. So now it's my turn.
No way. I never saw this jerk or his blinking lights. And besides, I don't see his name on this parking spot.
I really don't give a damn who did what. Move your cars, both of you.
I'm not moving.
If you're not moving it, I'll move it for you.
I like to see you try.
Well, that didn't go very well, did it? Now let's see how the next security officer handles the same situation.
Let's calm down. I heard there was an accident and two men were about to get in a fight. But first, is anybody hurt?
Nobody's hurt yet, but if this guy doesn't move his truck, somebody's going to be hurt.
I like to see you try.
All right, that's enough. Let's calm down. Now, I want to hear what happened, but you go first.
Look, officer, I was stopped over there, and I had my directional signal on, waiting on the parking spot. When the car pulls out, then he steals it from me. Then he has the audacity to give me the finger and laugh at me.
Is that what happened?
That's not what happened. Hell no, it's not what happened. First of all, I never saw this guy before. And I never saw a blinking light on his truck. And I don't see his name on his parking spot.
Okay, gentlemen. It seems like we have a misunderstanding here between both of you.
How can there be a misunderstanding when I have my blinker on, waiting on the spot? Everybody knows that if you have your blinker on, waiting on a spot, that spot goes to the vehicle with the blinker on.
Okay, gentlemen. Please stop this. I'm trying to be fair to both of you. Obviously, you both have different versions of what happened, and I understand that. But we have a problem right now that needs to be resolved. And this arguing back and forth, whose ever fault it was, isn't getting us anywhere. Listen, I'm not saying that it's totally your fault or your fault. What I'm saying is I need both of you to take a little bit of responsibility. Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess.
Good. How about we put this behind us and we just both get in your cars and just both drive away, okay?
Fair enough.
Now that security officer has gotten them both to take some responsibility, which is an indication that they are both willing to compromise. The officer can now suggest a solution to satisfy both men. You saw that the first officer was a disaster. He immediately started off by being rude. He didn't take any time to talk to them and to find out what actually happened. Not once did he ever try to calm them down. In fact, he made things worse by not showing them any respect. Bottom line, he became part of the problem. On the other hand, the second officer was respectful. He knew how to bring the conflict to a peaceful and agreeable solution. That was good, but what turned it into a conflict to start with? Well, it started with core values. Every conflict situation tests a person's core values. In that scenario, both men's patience, anger, and stubbornness were tested. I'm going to use this meter to demonstrate core values. When the needle is in the green, it's where people with little or no anxiety are, meaning everything is okay. When people become concerned, they start getting close to the yellow zone. In other words, they become cautious. As the disagreement escalates, they move into the yellow zone, where in the yellow zone depends on how serious the disagreement is. If the conflict escalates further, they move into the orange zone, which is at the edge of one's temper. The needle moves into the red zone when they lose their temper. When they become violent, that goes all the way to the top of the red zone. Everyone has core values that they rate low or high based on the importance of the issue or a situation. According to psychologists, we all have hundreds of core values. Certain core values for one may be different than for another. An important core value for one person may not be important to someone else. For example, shoplifters don't consider honesty very high on their core values, but that's not the case for most people. Let me give you a better example. When you come to a traffic light that's red, you stop because of the 3 core values. There are 3 basic reasons for that. Number 1, obedience. You're obeying the law. Number 2, fear. If you don't stop, you could have an accident or you could get a traffic ticket. And number 3, patience. As long as the traffic light stays red, even if you're the only one car in the road, you'll be patiently waiting for the green light. Here's some core values that can quickly create a conflict situation where one of the participants considers that core value high on their list, but the other participant does not. Boldness, challenge, honesty, reputation, self-respect, determination, safety. Which core value is more important depends on the person's personality and the situation at the time. People involved in a conflict usually respond emotionally or rationally. Emotional responses are based on their feelings, while rational responses are based on the facts. Emotional responses have a tendency to cloud rational thinking, whereas rational responses that include the facts cannot be disputed. Therefore, your first objective when solving a conflict is to get as many facts that you can so that any of their emotional responses will be less relevant. Take the parking spot conflict. Joe let his emotions take over when Harry took the spot. More often than not, security officers arrive at a conflict that's already in progress. That's why it's so important to go slow so you can get the facts before you start to take any action or make recommendations. As a security officer, you'll have to deal with conflicts where someone may have an unpredictable behavior. Since they don't carry a sign on them that says, "I'm unpredictable," this makes it much harder to resolve the conflict. Constantly be aware of facial expressions and body language to give you a heads up. When a conflict turns violent, the rules change. You should try to break up the fight without putting yourself in danger. If you're licensed to make arrests, that would be your next choice. If you're not, you need to contact your dispatcher to send backup, call the police, and then be guided by your company's policies and procedures. When you come on the scene of a conflict, evaluate what zone the participants are in, and then try to bring them into the green zone. To do that, keep yourself composed, alert, and polite. Remember, you want to solve the problem, not become part of the problem, like that first officer did in the parking lot. Constantly evaluate what zone they are in when you arrived and compare it to the zone that they're in currently. If they're moving towards the green zone, you're making progress. If they're staying in the orange or red zone, try changing tactics. Of course, if things get out of hand, you need to protect yourself, but only use enough force in order to take back control. Dealing with short-tempered people is difficult to say the least. Most of the time, you can identify them by seeing their negative ways. But that's not always the case in some short-tempered people because they can hide their emotions. So stay alert, cautious, and tactful so you can be forewarned if they start moving into that red zone. Be aware and control your own body language. Your negative body language will almost always have an adverse effect in a conflict. Here are some things to consider. Never invade someone's personal space. Standing too close gives them the impression that you're intruding. Always face the person you're talking to with your hands at your sides. Never cross your arms in front of you. That gives the impression that you're putting up a barrier between you and them, and also can be a signal that you don't trust them or that they're lying. Remember, you need their trust in order to bring them into a green zone. Avoid making negative facial expressions. Don't smirk, roll your eyes, squint your eyes, and don't look at them mean like you're being critical. Remember, you're trying to stop the conflict, not inflame it. It's much better to look concerned and occasionally nod your head in the affirmative as they're talking, which will give them the impression that you're listening and understand their side of conflict. Now, let's look at facial expressions and body languages of others. Facial expressions can be voluntary, like smiling for the camera, or involuntary, like when you get surprised. Whenever you see someone giving a negative expression or they display negative body language, those are clues regarding what their current mood is. For example, eyes. The eyes almost always display a person's current temperament, feelings, and if they're being deceptive. If they can't make eye contact and they keep looking away, look at the ground, or look up to the sky, those are pretty good signs that they're either not going to cooperate or they're lying. After you ask a question, if they squint their eyes when answering questions, that's another clue that they're having a problem trusting you. When you see that, you might ask them, is there something wrong? Am I missing something? When a person tightens their lips when questioned, that's an indication that they're either angry, or they don't trust you, or they're trying to be deceptive. The voice can also reveal deception and anger. When they raise their voice, the voice becomes shaky or it becomes high-pitched. These could be signs of denial, deception, anger, or frustration. Don't make final judgments or come to a conclusion for that matter, based just on one negative expression. But when you observe 2 or more negative expressions during the conversation, that's a strong indication that the person is not being totally honest. Aggressive people are almost always against anything that stands in their way. There are all kinds of aggressive people. Some are openly aggressive, while others are able to hide it. Some of them will even be polite, some will be passive, some will be aggressive, and some, they'll just be plain rude. Aggressive and rude people are more likely to cause conflicts. It's just their core values speaking out. Here's a few examples of what I mean by aggressive and rude people: being a bully, acting hostile, always complaining, acting very anxious, they're resentful, are critical of everything. Avoid saying or doing anything that would affect positive communication. For instance, you already decided what the problem is before getting all the facts and hearing both sides of the issue. You're asking irrelevant questions. Just ask the questions relative to the conflict. You're not giving the person time to explain. You continually interrupt. It's best just to let them talk. What they say, that may just be the key to who started the conflict, why the conflict started, and most of all, the key to resolving the conflict. When you don't listen, it can definitely intensify a conflict. If they think that, they will quickly assume that you don't care. To avoid that, make eye contact, nod your head yes once in a while, and occasionally ask questions. Ask relevant questions that will help bring out the truth. A few examples are, what do you think? What makes you feel this way? What happened to give you that impression? This might not be an easy conversation, but it's important that we talk about it openly and candidly. Do you agree? We need to respect each other before we can continue. Do you agree? Never ask accusatory questions unless the facts are on your side. There may come a time when you're asked to physically escort someone from a client's building. Always have the client or manager tell you why the escort is necessary. The reason you want to hear